What's up, guys? So today is my first video in a cliche series of what's in my bag videos. I say cliche because everybody does them, but I know I get interested in what people take on their shoots, and I know people just, I don't know, we're just kind of interested in each other. But I wanted to make mine a series because what I bring to, say, a portrait shoot with a toddler on location is going to be different than what I bring to a small wedding, which is going to be different than what I bring to a large wedding where I have a team of people. So today I wanted to start out small and talk about a portrait shoot. So this is an idea of what I bring in my bag, which I actually don't really carry a bag to a portrait shoot. So the number one thing I bring to any shoot is the Omega Reflector, created by Jerry Gionis. Well, I guess I do bring a bag because this is a bag. But the Omega Reflector is amazing because you can shoot through it. So basically you have this reflector you can shoot through, and you have the panels, the corresponding panels that you can put back in, or you can use these as standalone. So, and you can also shoot through this as well. So you can take the flap off, and then it's just like any other reflector, except it has a daylight side rather than a gold side. So it's basically a mixture of gold and silver together, which is absolutely gorgeous for the skin. So I think Jerry was a genius when he made that. It also comes with a hook, hang it, which is amazing. Why someone didn't think of that before, I don't know. But the Omega Reflector is hands down, it doesn't matter what camera I bring or what lenses or what flash or anything, I'm always gonna bring the Omega Reflector to every single shoot. It was the best portrait investment, or the best photography investment I've ever made. And I think it was like 130 bucks, so it really wasn't that bad. So I carry 2 cameras to every shoot. I carry my D850. If it's a portrait shoot, I'm gonna carry my D850. It's very light. And likely another camera or my Z7. Now let me explain, I can't show you my Z7 because I'm filming on it. Let me explain why I carry my Z7 as opposed to the D800, D810, D5, all of these other things. So I've been having problems with my 50 millimeter, my 20 millimeter, and my 85 millimeter lenses. I like to shoot wide open or very close to that. And the wonderful thing about the 850 is it'll show you where the focal point, where you've put the focal point. So no one can come back to you and say, oh, well, you obviously just didn't focus on the right thing, or you missed focus. Basically what's happening is last year I sent my 50 and my 20 in 4 times to get calibrated. And basically what will happen is you can calibrate, you can fine tune this lens for say up to 6 feet, and it will perform well and beyond in focus up to 6 feet. But then beyond 6 feet, it loses focus. So I can't use my 20 millimeter or my 50 millimeter and now my 85 millimeter in all situations. I have to choose. Okay, so I can use my 50 millimeter at 6 feet and beyond for formals, and that's it. So what I did was I tested out my lenses with a mirrorless camera, and what I found is my 85 millimeter misses focus with every single one of my cameras now. However, it does not miss focus with the Z7. So I always bring, I'm always going to bring 2 cameras anyway, and now my second go-to camera is the Z7 because it allows me the versatility in getting very close to my subjects, which is something that I want. So camera number 1 and then camera number 2. So let's talk lenses. I carry the new 70-200 by Nikon. I love this lens. Generally for portraits, I keep it at 200 and use it as if it was a prime lens moving back and forth. So I don't zoom in and zoom out with it during any portrait shoot. I keep it at 200 because I love the compression. I think it is very flattering to people no matter what size you are, but especially to larger people. And also, when you separate the background from the subject, of course, it has that beautiful creamy bokeh that happens. So I absolutely love this lens, and use it as a portrait lens. My all-time favorite lens was the 85mm 1.4. Since I can't use it with all of my cameras now and it's basically relegated to the Z7, I don't get as much versatility out of it, and it really makes me sad because this is an expensive lens and maybe it's time to bite the bullet and buy a new one. However, I don't know if that's the case because the 20mm I bought and the 50mm I bought were both relatively new lenses. I don't think I really need to say why the 85mm is just the best portrait lens. It's mainly because it is the best portrait lens. I love the fall off with depth of field with this lens, and just the all-around creaminess from, let's say you're getting just the eye in focus and then down. I absolutely love it, and especially for people that don't have good skin like myself. I like to focus basically on that one eye and then just let the rest of it fall away. So the 85mm was the biggest player in my bag for basically anything I did for the longest time until I started having problems with it. So plus a lot of the reasoning for me using smaller cameras and smaller lenses is because I'm a small person and I don't want to be tied down with the weight of my equipment to where I can't get my job done. So having smaller equipment just works better for me, and the Z7 kind of falls right in line with that too. I always bring one flash to a portrait shoot, and usually I keep it in the Omega bag or on the other camera that I'm carrying. This one is the SB600, and I always bring my trusty Gary Fong just in case. It's a wonderful diffuser. I like to generally shoot into a reflector from, like, say the side rather than through the diffuser, but I keep it just on there just in case I need it for something because I never know what I'm going to need. So generally, if I want to get more of a direction of light, let's say in an overcast day, I will have someone hold the reflector and then I'll shoot into it and onto the subject. Now let me talk a little bit about why I bring two cameras. I bring two cameras always because I need a backup, and you never know when your camera could malfunction. So that's of course the main reason. And the second reason is if I have a long lens, I can have a shorter lens on the other just to make it easier for me to just grab and go, especially if kids might be involved in the portrait shoot. And I can just switch from one camera to the other rather than having to, put this lens here and this and that. I just don't like dealing with that. But with that being said, I did a senior shoot last week where I carried basically the reflector without the bag and no flash, my D850 and my 70-200. So it just really depends, but as small as I am, I need to just bring the least amount of equipment I can get by with. Now, batteries. So if it's a portrait shoot, I don't bring extra batteries. I put new batteries into my flash so that way I don't have to carry anything extra. And cards. I always use backup RAW to RAW, never RAW to JPEG. So I always have two cards in, one card in each slot. And of course with the Z7 it only came with one card slot, but luckily I haven't had any problems with it thus far. So anyway, if anyone has any questions, of course, put them below. I'm not trying to recommend any equipment for anyone. I just know that people get interested sometimes, and I have such a small footprint when I'm going to shoot that I think it's interesting for beginners to see. I think it's interesting for beginners to see what someone might carry, or small people, what someone might carry, or what they can get by with. Now, of course, if you only have one camera and a lens or two, bring your one camera and your lens, but I always recommend two cameras if possible. Okay, so let's say this portrait shoot was an engagement shoot. Then I would actually either bring an extra lens with me, or I would switch out the 85mm in my bag for the 105. And the reason I would switch it out to the 105 macro lens, sorry if you don't know what that is, a macro lens is because if it's an engagement shoot, we may want to shoot the engagement ring at the location either on their hands close up, or if it's an environmental portrait, like if we're in nature, we might want to use it with some leaves or some letters. You know, there's a lot of creative ways to take pictures of it, and so this is a great lens to keep around for that. It's also a phenomenal portrait lens. when you can get it to focus. I definitely would not use this for any sort of wedding ceremony. This is actually the Nikon, the 2.8, the older one. So if you can get the new one, that'd actually be fantastic. But the 2.8, it's kind of like it hunts for focus. So I definitely don't recommend this any sort of action shot wise. Like, well, obviously a wedding ceremony is not sports, but you know what I mean. So another fun little thing that I bring on an engagement shoot is this little copper tubing. It's like 3/4 inch to an inch. And this can produce a ring of fire effect with the sunlight. It's a fun little thing to do to kind of add to the shoot. Well, I mean, I guess you could use it with any portrait shoot, but it creates this flare of kind of fire looking thing around the subject. And it takes a lot of practice to do this, but it's a fun thing to do, and people, even though it's kind of an effect, at least it's in camera and people do like it. So this was probably 50 cents. And you could use this with any camera lens setup you have. Another fun thing I like to bring along to engagement shoots and couples portraits, or moody portraits if I might be doing a senior shot, is a prism. You can create rainbow effects, you can create mirror images within the picture. Just a lot of fun stuff you can do holding your prism in front of your lens. And these are small items that fit very well in my bag, in my Jerry Giona's bag, my camera bag for portrait shoots with the Omega Reflector. So I think these are fun ways to get something just a little bit different for your client that you can show them in camera. So one thing that I like to do, this is not part of my bag, but this is part of my mentality, and I actually put a list in my bag sometimes, is I will get to know the client and I write a list of shots that I think they would like. So if I think they would like a double exposure in camera, that goes on my list, and then I take the picture or set of pictures, show them the back of the camera, and they're blown away. So I know that's kind of a cliche little thing to do, and it's kind of a gimmick or whatever you want to call it, but clients seem to really, really love that. So a list, a shot list, especially if you're just starting out with portraiture, you might know how to shoot well, but you may not be able to run the shoot, I guess, as effectively as you could. So you could actually write a shot list with close-up of ring behind head, kissing shot, looking in each other's eyes, forehead shot, you know, whatever you want. And it sounds really, really clinical. And once you shoot more, once you really get into it, you don't have to make a list, and the shoots go so much more organically. But I found in the beginning, if I made a list of shots that I wanted to get, that I would pay attention to it more so than, oh, I got every single shot. I was about 10 feet away from the person. I didn't get any close-up. I didn't get any close-up of the ring. You see what I'm saying? So if you just have reminders for yourself in the beginning, it makes it so much easier once you get into the habit to just continually do stuff. So I used to bring a light stand, off-camera flash, all kinds of, you know, triggers and all kinds of stuff to shoots. And I found them to be so cumbersome, and that my equipment, oh my God, equipment fails all the time. And let me tell you, so we have these amazing pocket wizards, or expensive pocket wizards, that would fail so much. Ended up getting some Yongnuo triggers. I mean, these things were like $100. I don't even think it was that much. And I have never once had a problem out of Yongnuo triggers. Now, that being said, I rarely ever bring any on-camera flash. I rarely ever do any sort of off-camera flash, but I would like to say that it's a lot of times price does reflect. So if you get the 85mm 1.4 versus the 85mm 1.8, there's a completely different build quality, completely different image quality. So there are a lot of things where price does really, really matter. With this pocket wizards thing, I mean, we've invested so much money into that setup for them to fail all the time, that going with a lower price point and expecting it to break and then it not breaking was such an amazing thing. So those are just some recommendations. I don't advocate you going out and just throwing away pocket wizards and buying your Yongnuos, but just to know from someone else's perspective, yeah, I actually liked those. I thought they did pretty well. And of course, if a couple wants film, I will bring the Nikon F100 along with me. And the wonderful thing about the F100 is it takes basically all of my lenses. So it's an amazing film camera still to this day. So if someone wants film, then I will bring that camera along. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. You can subscribe if you want to. Like this video if you like it, dislike it if you hate it, but tell me why. And hit the bell for notifications. And I'll see you guys next time.